Yo. Welcome to the KodaCast, aka the KodaCast. My name is Chris, aka Sweat C, and over to my left is...
My name is Now. Some of you may know me as Nauza, right? And this is episode 3. We haven't done a podcast in a while. We've been really busy with figuring out a lot of things on the business side, trying to get our team up around the detailing, and then so it was a really good week. The energy that we had as a team kind of, we recently nailed down our mission statement, and having that clarity and focus for the team to kind of refer to has been great, right? So jumping back on creating as much content, building more brand awareness for what we're doing here. Doing a podcast has always been at the top of my list, just because it's a form of media content that I consume all the time. I love listening to podcasts. So hopefully, we can document and use this as a way to kind of not only improve what we do here on a weekly basis, but to share kind of our story with our viewers.
It's been a crazy week, but productive, and I think I'm really feeling the energy this week, just because everyone's kind of chipping in, doing whatever they need to do just to pump out, TikTok content. And I mean, look at the TikTok video that we just released. I mean, that's well over 20K views.
We had to shoot that TikTok twice, right? And it's been pretty cool to see, us get so much positive feedback on that video. People really enjoyed it, thought it was funny. We've watched it so many times, so it's it doesn't seem that funny to me. But although a lot of the people have been watching it for the first time, so that's been really cool. I know TikTok is a platform we're gonna try and have a lot of fun with and kind of really dig in on car culture, right? So that's that was really cool.
That was awesome. And we're gonna keep kind of going hard with this media stuff, because I feel like it's something that not a lot of people in the automotive industry has done. So I'm really excited to produce more content, and hopefully you guys enjoy it, and there's more to come.
So today we have a special guest, right? We have Kaval from Make It Shine. A big part of what I want to do with this podcast is inviting, other business owners, other detailers, other car enthusiasts to kind of tell their story, their journey, talk about cars, talk about business, talk about our pursuit to always try and learn and better ourselves, right? Because that's what Kodawari means to us. Right. So thank you, Kaval, for making the time to come be a part of this. It's cool that we were able to connect with someone like-minded like yourself over IG. So I'm gonna just pass it over, and you can just give an introduction as to what you do and your story.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm glad we finally made this happen, because all our conversations that we've had over the last few months have kind of just both left us feeling really inspired and really grateful, and really happy about our place. So my name's Kaval. I own Make It Shine Detailing. We're located in Vaughan. I've been in business since 2007. Definitely had a really, really cool journey in terms of the skill development and the services that I've offered over the course of this 13, 14 years now I've been doing it. And just the lessons that we've learned, and I've had a lot of back and forth with the business in terms of whether this is something that I want to keep doing in the past. I'm really glad to be here, and thanks for having me, and looking forward to getting into this.
It's a pleasure. I mean, it's our pleasure to have you on board, and we can really learn a lot from this today. I just kind of wanted to kind of point out a few things because I've been doing my research on you, right?
I hope it's all good. Good things.
Just because I feel like you're a very interesting dude because I know you've been doing Make It Shine for the past, way over 10 years, right?
14 years, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and
is correct.
yeah, that's a very long time. And in between that, you've done other roles, right?
Yeah. Make It Shine hasn't been something that I've been doing full time for that time period, 13, 14 years. I mean, when I started my business, it was kind of funny how it all happened because I was doing my undergrad and we had to take this finance course, and it had such a high failure rate, and just I don't test well. Like, I understand the concepts and stuff like that, but when it comes down to actually writing the exams, I have such a heavy weight on your success and whether you pass or fail that course.
Right.
I just struggled. So I knew I wasn't going to pass the first time, and that was probably a mistake even thinking like that. But 10 years later now when I think about it, but nonetheless, I earlier that semester, I think it was fall semester, we had taken part of our curriculum was to take a course called Identifying Opportunities. And our prof basically said, think of a business that you want to start and think like you're actually going to start it. And it really fired me up and said, I don't know, I'm sure you guys can relate. Like, sometimes or at some point or another, there's this fire that gets lit.
Oh, yeah.
And it cannot be put out, right? And so I'd have to say that was the point. Like, I can still remember sitting there I'm getting chills even just talking about it, because as I bring my mind back there, I remember I could almost point out exactly where in that auditorium I was sitting. Yeah. When I had that thought, I was like, you know what? I'm going to start my own business. Yeah. So I had two ideas, and the first idea was start a home renovation business, and that came because my parents had through the course of home ownership, you renovate your house, right? Yeah. And we always had such bad luck with contractors that we ended up having to redo the work ourselves. Oh my God. So it got to the point where, I remember 10, 11 years old, and I'm helping my dad, lay down hardwood floors, do tiling. So I got really, really good with my hands. And I just liked the idea of taking tiles or wood or whatever and cutting it perfectly. That satisfied something inside of me that it's just maybe I really am OCD or whatever. Yeah. But it was something so satisfying about putting such precision into something and then seeing it, right? Something very, very tangible. So I thought, I was like, you know what, maybe I'll do that. I'll start with flooring or something. And then the other one was car detailing. I always loved cleaning cars. I think that got lit because my parents had a place up north with wood siding, and one day we decided to paint the wood siding. So I put the cars on the other end of the road because I knew there'd be overspray. Yeah. But the place backed onto the water, so the wind coming off ended up taking all the paint that we had sprayed and covered the cars. And I didn't realize until I was driving home that Sunday. Yeah. And I was like, you put your window down and you're like, what's that noise, right? And then you turn on your wipers, you're like, oh no. So that was my first real experience with fixing almost a catastrophic mistake. Yeah. And I picked up a clay bar that somebody at a body shop showed me, and man, it just exploded. So when I was sitting there in that class, I was like, all right, you know what? I don't even know how old I was, maybe say 17, 18 years old or whatever. Yeah. And I was like, nobody is going to give me a $20,000 down payment for a home renovation project. And how am I going to get that when I'm young and I'm inexperienced, right? I can start small with detailing cars. Yeah. And kind of go from there. So that was when I knew that I'm just going to start doing this as a side hustle, right? Then that summer semester came, and I decided to sign up for that finance course. And I said, you know what, I'm going to need some cash flow as well. And my mom had got me a job at Home Depot through one of her friends in the tool rental department. At the schedule was kind of tight and it wasn't really that flexible, and I was already cleaning cars, and I was just like, man, I think I'm just gonna do this car detailing thing. And my parents were pissed off. They were so upset. They were like, you're throwing away a good opportunity to get your foot in the door. And they even went to my now wife's parents and asked them to talk to me and try to set me straight and to say, you know what, we think Kaval's making a mistake. And I just stuck to my guns, man. I just felt like this was the right thing to do. And yeah, like years later, like I remember my mom telling people, oh, that's my son, he has his own business. Like it's so cool how things change, right? So, you know, even your own parents, you know, they can put that doubt in you, but you have to stick to your guns. And I truly believe that even if I had gone and started that job at Home Depot, I still would have found myself here. It just maybe would have taken a little bit longer. But I mean, that's kind of how this business got started. It's just a side thing, I'm sure, like it is for most people. Right. And I got pretty good at it, and I decided to make a run for it.
Yeah, no, I think that's really dope. And, you know, just looking at your resume, I mean, you have an undergrad in BCom. You also have your MBA. And now you've transitioned into like the automotive industry. So, you know, I find your story very compelling. And yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been fun. The MBA was something I always wanted to do, regardless of whether I had this business or not. Yeah. I did that over the course of, I think, 3 or 4 years. That was a really, really cool experience because I think I was one of the only people there in any of my classes that had their own business happening right now. Yeah. And it was a ton of work. I remember like I'd go and I'd work all day, then rush myself downtown, go for class, get home, do homework. Like it was, you know, regularly, like even getting 6 hours of sleep a night was good. But, you know, those are the sacrifices that you make that people don't necessarily see. And it's not like you want them to see them, but those things really set some strong values inside of you in terms of like work ethic and what it means to be successful and how much you really have to work to get where you want to go. Right. So, I'd say, you know, sitting there in class and seeing people that are working in large corporations, one of the real benefits that I got was I felt so disconnected from everybody in my class. But the more you thought about it, it was just a different perspective. It's just you just have to shift yourself, because these are people working within the organization or within their company or whatever, or, you know, they're going to manage people. And you sit back and you're like, well, if I'm going to be managing people in the future, these are some of the things that I need to keep in mind that are actually going to happen. Because the reality is, you know, you can read textbooks and you can read, you know, case studies and things like that, but words can only convey so much. And when you're dealing with situations and you're dealing with people one-on-one, there's sort of like these soft skills that you can't learn from a book or, you know, even from like a case study. And so I would say that doing that part of my education really helped to kind of solidify the need to think more strategically about your business and more long-term. And I think I owe a lot of my current success to that experience. I wouldn't necessarily say that the possessing that degree makes you is the contingent factor to give you that perspective, but it, you know, just being around those kind of people, having that experience, going through that whole 3-4 years, like it was really, really tough. But
you made it on the other end.
I made it at the other end. And you know, it's just full steam ahead, man.
Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of look back and go look at those chapters of your life and be like, man, that was a waste of time, right? But I think regardless of, you know, where you went with that degree, you know, you take something, you can take something from that chapter of your life. Yeah,
and it's up to you, right? Like what you want to make out of it. Like I could have easily just said like, this is a waste of time, man. I don't know why I did this, but you know, you also have to think about it like how you do with anything in life. Like as you go through life and you remember past experiences, you will look at them with a new lens.
Yeah.
And you will also like take different things from that when you look back on it.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I think about being in class or whatever, like there were so many different skills that I was picking up on or that were starting inside of me that I didn't know or I didn't realize until now. And so yeah, like I'm super, super grateful about those things. And there's something else I was gonna say. It'll come back to me.
I know you spoke about, you know, that fire, that kind of that light turning on when you were sitting in that auditorium, right? Were you surrounded by, you know, anyone in your family that was an entrepreneur or wanted to really do their own business, or is that something that your parents kind of influenced you, or is that something you think was just kind of ingrained in who you are?
Because it must be scary to start a business at that age, right? And just kind of go full force with that.
It wasn't scary until I got the shop, and then I took the shop over completely. That's when it really like, and it wasn't even like, you know, we were talking when I walked in and you were showing me around the shop, and I was like, sometimes you just have to go in with just almost like blinders and just go for it. And because I had something to fall back on, I was a little more at ease with taking risk.
Yeah.
And you know, I would still consider myself to be somewhat of a risk averse person, just because like it's hard to feel uncomfortable, just as we are in our human nature.
Yeah, agree.
But at the same time, if you don't take those risks, whether they're big or small, you don't know what's on the other side. Yeah. And I think that thrill of not knowing what was on the other side kind of kept me going and really pushed me, right? Yeah. And then you know, not to be a downer or whatever, but so my mom passed away a few years ago, and she died young. She was like 52, and it really changed my outlook on nearly everything. And one of the things was like, time is super precious. Like you don't know when your time is going to be, right? So I try now to live my life, and I mean I always have, but now it's very much a strong, like really up there. It's apparent. Try not to have any regrets. If I'm lying there and I know I'm taking my last breaths, I want to be able to reflect on my life and know that, you know, if I made any mistakes, I corrected them. Yeah. But I really tried to live my life with as little regret as possible. Yeah. And that for me drives me a lot, because I know that, you know, all the sacrifices that I've made, my wife makes, my family, my parents have made, they're all out of love for you. Oh yeah. And you have to find your way to honor that, right? And that's just where I draw some of my drive from. I mean, it could be from so many, like depending on the person, right? So I would say that like the not having the regret's a huge thing. For sure. And learning how to take risk is not something that just comes easy. Yeah. Now you and I were talking to like, you could do something and screw up, but the beauty is that you're still going to learn something, right? So nothing gets done unless you do something. Yeah. And sometimes you just have to get up and just go for it. Just keep going. Like when I started this business, I really didn't think about what could happen. I think there was a fear that if I got to a point in my life where I decided that I didn't want to do this any longer, that there wouldn't be any other opportunities available for me. Yeah. But then that, again, it brought me right back to like, make this time count, right? Make it count for something, and just try and grow as much as you can, because you don't know what else is out there. Like, especially in our day and age, you see people doing like great things with their life, and you know, they're out there and they're doing well for themselves. And the things that they're doing are things that we never would have thought would be yielding those kinds of benefits, right? Yeah. So just keep your head down and just do the best you can at whatever it is that's in front of you. Yeah. And the rest, you know, you just got to have some faith sometimes that it will work out.
Consistency, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, man. And sorry for your loss.
Oh, it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good. I mean, it was 9 years in November,
Mm-hmm.
and my heart was just filled with gratitude because the amount of things that I've learned
Mm-hmm.
from that experience, like I'm just like I have no sadness. I have no like depression, nothing. I'm just super, super, super happy. Right. So
It's great to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I know that death can, sometimes you can look at death two ways, right? Some people see it as, if you think about it all the time, it could be morbid, but if you reframe it a certain way, you can kind of let death remind you that life is so precious, and hopefully that can kind of guide your decision making.
Yeah, for sure.
So that you just go for it, man.
Yeah.
Even if you're not ready, even if you're scared,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you just go for it, right? Because compared to actually dying, a lot of the things that we find, that troubles us or frightens us, it kind of helps us overcome it and kind of,
For sure.
get past it.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I just want to kind of ask you something here, just to scale back to your expertise. I know that you're a training specialist. How'd you get into that?
I think that, oh man, it was a couple of years ago. I was talking to my friend Corey. He runs CarPro US. I don't know if you guys deal with him, but he's sort of like our hub as our professional network of Seaports installers goes, and he's a really good friend of mine. He's an inspiration. But I said to him, I was like, man, like we need to, like, we talk a lot about the state of the industry and where it's going and where it needs to go or where we feel like it should be. And one of the things was, and we'll touch on this kind of later as well, but I'm glad you asked me that, because essentially, like, I've gotten to a stage where like I mean, I don't know if you guys saw that Subaru that I just fixed.
Yeah. The Forester, right?
Yeah. And like, I see it a lot. I'm seeing it more and more and more as my years go by. And you know what? Like, put the money aside that I'm getting paid to fix somebody's work. I don't want to necessarily see people paying double to get the job done right. And it's not. You have to look at the source, right? It's not necessarily that the shop intended to do a bad job, but maybe they just didn't have the understanding or the skills or the experience. And the problem is, like, when you look at the internet and you look at how many resources are available, it's like a double-edged sword, because you can learn so much, and the learning curve is shortened significantly, I would say, over the last like 5 years, right? With the amount of content that's available, like even this, like I don't think this thing was available to us 5 years ago for this type of work that we're doing.
No. Yeah.
But the problem is that I found, myself and Corey and a few other guys, we found that there wasn't a lot of resources available to get you started and get you started in such a way where you have the skills to fix things when they go wrong. You understand how things went wrong, how to scale your business. Like, there was a lot of things that we kind of wanted to go into. And so I got to a point where, like, it bothers me now when I see this kind of work, because I'm like, man, like, there's so much potential for this industry, and we get such a bad rap, man. Like, not just detailers, but the automotive industry in general. You see the way, like, sometimes the media portrays us, and it's not a good look. And if we want to reap the benefits of all of our hard work, it doesn't just start and stop inside our shop.
Yeah.
Right. When you feel like you have developed and mastered your skills to a certain point, that you can start passing that along, I think that's a super important thing to do and start thinking about. And the opportunities will start to manifest themselves, right? Like I've been wanting to do these kinds of training things for a long time, and then now it's happening. And so whenever I get the opportunity, I jump on it, and I love it. Again, that fire I was talking about, it's like whenever I get the opportunity to see people grow, it's like somebody's throwing more kindle into that fire, and it really, really makes me happy to see that, because ultimately, I mean, we don't live in a perfect world, but if you can affect, like, you can positively affect even one business owner or one detailer with some technical skills that change their game and make them better at what they're passionate about, then they're going to take that, master it, and pass it along to somebody else, right? So, you have to pay it forward. And I just feel like, instead of, you see a lot of people that have been doing this for 20, 30 years, and they're extremely skilled, and they could detail or polish or whatever. It's like circles around guys like us, but they're bitter. They're bitter about the state of the industry. They're bitter about how things are going, and I don't want to be like that. I don't want that to live inside of me. So why not try to just put some goodness out there and just say, hey guys, like if I have a car in my shop and I know who did it, I would love to reach out to them and say, hey, maybe we can talk about what went wrong, or try to figure out what went wrong, right? And just, like that's kind of how the training thing has started. I think that also being able to use some of my education and my background to help like new business owners start on the, I wouldn't say the right path, because there are many ways to success,
right?
But to start at a path where you have somewhat of a good foundation laid out for you, so that it gives you the opportunity to kind of just fall into your own, right?
Yeah.
And by falling into our own, I mean, like, there's a lot of shops out there who just specialize in like interiors, and they're really good at it. There's a lot of shops out there that just specialize in polishing, and they're really good at it. So coming into your own in this industry means something like that.
Cool.
Does that kind of answer?
No, that was really good.
Really good, yeah.
Right. There is a lot of really bad press around the automotive industry. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Even just driving my track car to the track sometimes, I mean, not sometimes, I'm always nervous, because I don't want to get like labeled as like how we're perceived, right?
Right,
and
right.
Unfortunately, that's just the landscape that we're in. But
because when you think about like what you see on the news, there's always like, those meets where they're shutting down an intersection. Like the latest one was H2O, and I think up by Saga Beach, and that was a shit show. And you never get to see, most of the general public will never get to see the beautiful side of the car community.
Car culture, community.
The things that we know exist, right? So a big part of us doing these things, building our businesses and creating this kind of content, is to kind of highlight that.
Yeah,
right.
I totally agree.
All that training that you were talking about, we're not professional detailers, right? If it wasn't for Matt at Obsessed Garage, providing so much value and training through his channel and through his brand, I don't think the shop would be here.
Yeah.
Right. I don't think I would have had the confidence or the knowledge to try and attempt something like this, because we're not very fluent in detailing and polishing and ceramic coating, but him providing a system that where we can kind of work in and kind of grow from was really amazing. It's valuable. Like
Matt, I feel like Matt has done a great job at streamlining a lot of the learning process and that curve, to make it very easy and accessible for newcomers and just people that are really passionate about car detailing to have something that they can stand back and be like, wow, I did that, right? Being in this industry, for this many years, and then seeing what Matt does, like I have a lot of respect for it, because he's taken a lot of the guesswork out, and the guesswork can be long and tiresome, and not to mention quite expensive. And the expensive part is huge, because when you're starting a business, you're low on money. And if you can find a way to kind of like make it more efficient and cost effective, it'll help to speed up the journey that you're on.
Sure. So that's why we're, a big part of his value add to his community as well is just telling his journey, right? Just sharing, how he started his channel, why he did it, and to see kind of grow into what it is now is really inspiring, right? So that's what we're trying to do here at KodaWire, is kind of sharing our journey of what it means what it takes to kind of build a business around what you really love, right? And all the ups, all the downs, and there's plenty of both, right? But just putting yourself out there and sharing that.
I have to say, like, and I'm not saying this to grovel or whatever, but watching you guys over the last few months has been really nice to see, because you guys are really stepping out of your comfort zone, and even for me starting my business, like I would have never had the guts to do what you guys are doing on a regular basis, like just doing these podcasts, putting yourself out there. Like I didn't have that kind of personality, and but seeing it is really, really nice. It makes me want to be here and hang out with you guys and talk. And even when you reached out, like just the fact that you reached out hungry for information made me want to help you, and made me just want to come and talk, right? Like that's basically what we're doing here.
Right.
And, I have no doubt in my mind that, like, as time goes by and you guys start to get more comfortable and more clients, and you develop a process here, like this business will thrive.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
Really, really appreciate that, because I mean, the team can attest to this, but we had to do a lot of uncomfortable things, like that TikTok dance challenge that we did. For those who caught that, I mean, it forced me to dance, and I don't dance, and Alan's looking at me over there, and he doesn't do that too. So
if my wife were here right now, she'd be laughing at me, because she knows I do not like doing stuff like that too.
No.
Oh man, it's so funny.
You're a one-man show over there, right?
That's something that, like, I don't know, man, for better or for worse, I like, it's weird, I like being alone. I like being in my head, as much as that can be a bad thing sometimes. I guess in a lot of ways, like when I'm working, I'm coaching myself. I'm like observing my mind and observing what I'm doing, and being like, no, do this instead, or you got to keep doing that, or stay focused or whatever, right? Like people get surprised when they talk to me and they find out I've had this business for this long, and they're like, so do you have any employees? I'm like, no. I've had people helping out in the past, and even like if I'm super slammed at the shop, bless my dad, 71 years old, he still comes and helps me. That guy can get down, man. He's a machine. He can polish, man. Like I would definitely have to say, watching him, I can see where I got a lot of my hands-on skills from, and my ability to kind of pick things up relatively quickly. It can definitely come from him. He's a retired mold maker, so he was dealing with like thousandths of an inch, and that level of precision is something that I really get down with. So when I am slammed at the shop, and I do need some help, I'll get my dad to come and give me a hand. But generally, I've kind of structured my business around the life that I want to have. And that is something that is centered around being there for my family, and I don't have any kids yet or whatever, but I have niece and a nephew, family and things like that, and just being able to be there, or if I need to take a day off, it's doable, and I don't have to have the added stress of employees. Employees are not a bad thing though, because if you want to scale your business, you can't do it without employees. But there's also, like I've talked to a few guys who've been doing this for 20 years, 25 years, and they had lots of employees, like 10, 20. And as they went through time, they scaled down, less employees. And they're making more money, there's less stress. And so it's sometimes you kind of still have to go through the motions and the mistakes to learn the lessons, rather than people telling it to you. But I'm relatively happy as a one-man show. The only thing that really bothers me sometimes is like I'll get clients reaching out, hey, can you do a wash for me? And I'm in the middle of like a full front end and like paint correction and ceramic coating, and like my priority is the client who's getting his car done now.
Right.
I hate saying no to people. Having an employee is great, but sometimes not having them sucks as well. So at the end of the day, like, I do get some times where I'll go in, half day on a Saturday, and all my clients that have asked me for a wash, I'll say, hey, I'll come in the morning and we'll take care of the car for you, right? I really like seeing my clients. I have good relationships with all of them. Because I'm low volume, like, sometimes 2 cars a week, but I'm spending a lot of time on those cars. It really gives me a chance to like learn my client and become like I've become friends with so many of my customers, and we're so tight. And, we go to the track together, and we crack jokes together and whatever. So I don't know if like that makes me happy. And I don't know if having like multiple staff members would give me that. And then the other thing is volume, right? Like you have to have the volume to support your employees. And if you don't, and I have structured my business in such a way where I can do 1 or 2 cars a week, and I'm comfortable. And most importantly, like I have the time to do the job that I've sold myself on and that my clients are expecting, right? Because I do try and spend a fair amount of time educating my clients on the differences in quality, because price is not like you guys know, right? Like price is not a driving. I mean, it is a driving factor, but you truly do get what you pay for. Right. You truly do. And I mean, even just in here, looking at all the stuff on the table, all the equipment that we're using, like it's all good quality stuff. Right. And you buy good quality stuff for a reason. You want it to last. You want it to perform well. The same thing is said for people working on your car, right? Sometimes you're on the forums and you see people complaining about the job that they got, and the first thing I say in my head, I'm like, I wonder what they paid. Because I had a client come by recently. We did a little bit of PPF work for a piece of his car, and he had done full front end and ceramic somewhere else. And just the film, it wasn't an install that I would have been happy with, but for the price he paid, it was okay. But he wasn't happy with the work, right? And so the clients that I try and target are the ones that really do appreciate the extra time and the extra care that can be put into a car to make the job look a certain way, right? Because nothing hurts more than wishing you had spent a little bit extra to get a better job.
Well, sorry. I know that you've ran a business successfully by yourself. Have you ever thought about expanding?
Scaling up?
Yeah.
I have.
Is that something kind of like in the works, or you haven't decided yet, or you don't?
You know what? I think this is actually like things have a funny way of working out. I know you've brought up how, your mom's a teacher. I think your sister's or your brother's a teacher as well.
Yeah, my brother's an ECE.
Yeah.
And so is his wife, I believe.
So
she's teaching as well.
this might be something that is just, comes,
A natural progression,
yeah,
right?
and, right? And you want to kind of add some positivity and kind of pay it forward back into this automotive community, right? I think teaching and hosting workshops is going to be, it might be the next chapter of, your progression as a business owner.
I feel like it.
Right.
Mhm.
And
I still like doing the work though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I
Oh, yeah.
still like getting my hands dirty.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
even when I take my car to the mechanic, like I could probably a nuisance sometimes, but like I just can't. I can't sit still and
Yeah.
watch people. Like I just have to get right in there.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, as we continue to do these workshops and
Yeah.
training sessions with you, I think I think putting the beauty of the internet, putting this kind of content out there, you connect with the right person.
for sure.
And there might be a young detailer out there that kind of his values line up with yours.
Yep.
And it makes that selection process a little bit easier.
For sure, 100%.
I think a big part of what we did here, and putting out the kind of content, we kind of connected with the right people.
Yeah.
Some of our team members, they reached out because they kind of saw what we were doing, and they were
That's
like,
awesome.
you know what, I really like it.
Yeah.
What you guys are doing here, and like, can I be a part of this?
Yeah.
Right. So with the training that we put out, you might have an opportunity where, you can still have a bit of a smaller team. You can
Yep.
still work on the projects that you want to.
Yep.
But if you have another client that says, "Hey, man, I need a wash," can you
Mhm.
do it? You can have someone there
For
to
sure.
help you, work through that and keep your clientele happy as it continues to grow and grow.
Yeah.
Right.
That's definitely something that I think about a lot. Where do I want my business to be in 2, 3, 5,
Yeah.
10 years or whatever? I definitely still want to be doing some work. My body does feel it now. I'm only 30, 34, 35, but like even basic things, like I can't wear my ring anymore, like my wedding ring, because I have like big like bumps in my fingers and stuff, like
Yeah.
small little things like that, right? But I definitely would like to get more on that side of things, and I just love it, man. Like I love seeing people grow. I love seeing the reaction on somebody's face when they finally get something right,
Mm-hmm.
because it takes me back to when I'm like, aha, I figured that
Yeah.
out. That's why that's happening, or whatever, right?
Mhm.
It's such a thrill, man. It's such a thrill.
Yeah, there's just something so fulfilling about kind of
Yeah.
that pursuit of learning and actually overcoming that wall,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that's a big kind of driving force for myself,
Yeah.
is to kind of always continue to learn, and it makes me really happy when I figure things out.
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
what's the point in being alive if you're not going to learn, right? You're just
That's
walking
true.
around like a corpse. What's
Yeah.
the point, right? Like, try and learn as much as you can.
I know. I agree with that, because for me, it's always having that mindset of being a student of life, really, and
Yeah.
just learning each and every day, because there's always something new to learn.
Yeah,
right?
I totally agree. And I mean, even for me, how many cars I've polished or done paint corrections on, I'm still learning something every day about whether that be like the way a product works, or the way a machine is doing, or the way some pad, like there's always something out there that you can pick up on and you can learn to pass on to somebody else, right?
Mhm.
So
I know we spoke a lot about your business journey,
yeah.
Mhm.
right? Let's touch on kind of your journey as a car enthusiast.
Yes.
Did that start with the detailing business? Did you love cars before that? I know you brought up that you have a lot of Honda drivers in your family. Your dad drives an FK8 Type R as a daily, right? So
That's crazy.
Share a little
When
bit.
I heard
about
that, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the oldest Type R owner in Canada.
How old is he again?
71.
He's the
badass.
coolest
You'll
dad.
never
That's
guess
the
when
coolest
you look at
dad.
him. I hope I have his genes when I get older.
I'm gonna be that guy, all right? I'm gonna be the oldest, aka Type R owner.
Oh man.
That's friggin' awesome, man.
But man, I definitely liked cars growing up as a kid. I think that's just something. Like I think boys just have a natural inclination to cars for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I watched my nephew growing up, and I see so much of myself in him. Sometimes it's scary, but you see him. He just loves cars, and then his sister, you know, she's not as interested in cars. So yeah, I think I just had it. And then of course, when you show an interest in something when you're a child, your parents generally do what they can to foster that and grow that.
Yeah.
And so I think cars just became a huge part of my life. And I remember, you know, like we lived up north, and my grandparents were down here in the city. So at least once a week we were driving, you know, 2 hours to and from. And so I wasn't that kind of kid to just fall asleep in a car. Like I kept my eyes open, and I would start counting like how many Hondas I'd see or how many like Volkswagens I would see. And I was just doing that since I was a kid. And then I remember once, like, my dad went to work and he took my mom's car instead. So I just went into his car and I started to take things apart for no reason. I just had that interest in like the car side of things and really how things worked. And I think that's that part of like wanting to know how things work is really carried over into learning about like polishing and doing PPF and things like that. But when I really started to get like really into cars was when like my dad used to tell me stories of how, like, you know, when he was in England, like he was building those old minis and like him and his friends would just build the crap out of them and go racing through the streets in like the 60s and the 70s. Like, imagine that, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, when you're growing up as a boy, you look up to your dad, right? You're like, oh, I want to be just like my dad. So I think somewhere along the line that kind of got ingrained in me. And like, I'll never forget, man, one day, it was Valentine's Day, and my dad had this like 1984 Accord S coupe. And it, you know, it was just a carb motor or whatever, but the thing sounded amazing. It probably had like exhaust leaks and like broken shock, but you're too young to pick up on that.
Yeah,
right? You're just like, yo, this car sounds sick. So we drove to Dairy Queen to pick up, you know, ice cream for my mom, and my dad just hauling ass down this street, and a cop pulled him over. And you know, I don't know if my dad got a ticket for that or whatever, but I think two little boys, as my brother was in the car with me, were just holding these ice cream cones and I don't know, maybe the cop let my dad go, whatever. But that, to me, as bad as it was, you know, I think speeding is wrong and whatever. But back then, when you're a kid, you don't think in terms of consequences, right?
Oh yeah.
When it comes to speeding on the roads. But I was like, yo, that hauling ass was pretty cool. Like, it felt awesome. And I used to love going in airplanes and feeling the thrust. And I think that kind of like sparked some sort of love for just going fast and going fast safely. And going fast safely can really only be done at a racetrack. Yeah. And so, you know, I used to play, you know, racing games on a computer, and I never really liked games like Need for Speed. Like, they were fun, but for me, like, the tuning aspect of it, adjusting cars to like suit your driving style or make a car like rotate better or dial out a little bit of understeer, like those were things that I really loved. And then by then, I think you know, I was looking online all the time. I remember when like the 0204 RSX came out, and I used to like build it on Acura's website with like
we all did that
goodies and all that stuff. And I remember going to my mom like, "Mom, this car's only like 40 G's," and you know, now I'm
cheap, right, Mom?
My mom probably thought I was a dumbass or something like that, right?
I've done that many times. But
that's where it starts, right? Like your love for cars and you know, I think just Honda as a brand, like, yeah, my whole family is Hondas. Like, I've got that EK, I've got an SI, my dad's got an SI, a Type R, and my brother's got like an 8th gen Civic. My in-laws just bought a CRV a couple of years ago, and then a Civic as well. So Honda's definitely as a brand is part of our family, but I think it really started for me just hearing the noises and seeing the tunability and all the JDM stuff, and it was just so cool. It was a culture that really spoke to me, because they're doing a lot with very little, right? And I think as immigrant parents coming to Canada, that same philosophy of doing a lot with a small amount kind of just carried over, and that interest really aligned with how like the JDM in particular car scene is, right? Like if you look at a 1.6 liter engine from a old Civic Type R, like to be able to produce that many horsepower per liter was a huge deal, and I mean it still is to this day.
Yeah.
So that sort of tuning philosophy, building philosophy, is something that I really like, and so when the whole like going to the track thing really started was when I met a couple of friends. Actually, I met a guy, Chris, from Stage 4 Motorsports, and Chris had reached out because they were racing in a time attack series here in Ontario, and they wanted their race cars cleaned and prepped for each event. So you get to work on the race cars now. You get to be like one-on-one with cars that are built for the track and have safety equipment, roll bar harness, sticky tires. And then your mind just starts to go, you're like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I think I'd really like something like that. And then you get to go to the track with them, and man, once you go to the track, you either love it or you don't. And I definitely fell in love with it. So that's kind of like how I got into cars, I guess, is a lot of influence from my dad, and knowing that my dad really liked it. The irony of all of this is the years I've been going to the track, I still have trouble getting my dad to come with me. so yeah.
Yeah, you've been building your EK for
almost 10 years.
Yeah,
now?
10 years. Wow.
Yeah, so my dad had bought a 2000 Civic sedan. It was like a nice plum color. He'd owned it since new. And as parts were going bad, we would just change them out for improved stuff. I ended up doing a B16 swap with a
nice
Type R transmission in that car, and shortly after that, car got into an accident, so I parted it out, and then I needed my own car because I started, I think I finally finished my undergrad around that time, so I was like, all right, it's time for my own car. So I loved the FA5 SI, like the 4-door SI, like my dad has now.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I think I should buy that car, even though it's going to cost me a bit of money and I'll owe some money. I think it might be a good car because it'll be newish, it'll be reliable, I won't have to do anything to it. But I was scared of having debt, and I at the time I didn't believe, and I still kind of believe this, but like having debt on a car sometimes is not necessarily a good thing, and the cost of borrowing was really high back then.
Yeah.
So for more reason, I had this aversion to wanting to owe money on a car because I had just started working. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah.
Just started my business, so I ended up finding this EK hatch that was sort of built to be almost like a Type R replica. And so I ended up buying that and slowly turning that into what it is now. So finally, I got the car within 2 weeks. My first track day, started putting on parts that I knew would make the car, work better, faster. And a lot of it was just based on how I was feeling in the car. Like I remember I just actually shared a memory on Instagram of when I posted that picture of we were at the old Mosport DDT track. And I'm coming up to the first corner, I believe, and the car looks like it's just about to tip over. So then you're like, all right, I need to control and that's when the technical part began, where I was like, all right, need to control the body roll. How do we do that? And anti sway bars.
Right.
So you start doing that, and then you're like, you know what? I feel like the car needs a little bit more spring, so you start changing spring rates. And it just develops.
One thing leads to another.
And then the K swap happened when I always knew I wanted a K-swap because Chris from Stage 4 took me out in their Integra one day, and it's a K20 Type R swap. Yo, man, that thing hauled some serious ass. I'm like, I want a K-swap one day. I don't know what chassis it's going to be in, but I really want one. So I ended up finding a coupe, like an EK coupe that had a K20 in it. So I bought that, and I was still driving the EK. Like I was doing all my school through with that car. I was driving around Ontario because I was mobile when I started. So I was driving around Ontario, taking care of people's cars. And I didn't want to ruin the perceived reliability of the car. And the car was super clean, right? Like I had to make the car look nice and clean when you show up to your client's house, right? So a lot of my friends were like, don't put the K-swap in there. You're going to ruin the car. It's not going to be as clean. So I'm like, all right. So I had bought this coupe, which had the K-series in it. Ended up stripping it down and putting it back together. But, there were a lot of like irreversible problems with that car. Like the rear trailing arm bolts were seized at one point, so they drilled holes in the floor, and then they didn't put the bushings in properly, and I'd be coming around like a corner, like turn 1 at TMP, and suddenly the car would just like snap back like from the rear end. And what was actually happening was the bushings were binding, and the tire was just touching the rear trailing arm. So that sudden change in wheel motion would just cause the car to come around. So there were weird things like that, and at the end of it, I was just like, the B16 that was in my hatch, it needed like timing belt, water pump, lost motion assemblies. It just needed a bit of maintenance. Yeah. I just started pricing it out. And I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to put the K20 in my EK. And I did that, and it's been like the best decision. The car's not as streetable anymore, obviously. I did daily drive it for 2 or 3 years after. But, as you get older, you like the comforts and stuff like that, and like right now I'm driving my wife's SUV, and it's super smooth, and it's like nice on the road. So
I definitely understand that.
But
no, I remember the first time I came across you and your car was that YouTube video with Speed Academy.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That was when
that was such a cool experience, man.
Yeah. Those guys, they're doing it up, man. They create some really cool content. And it was just seeing the joy that he had driving a car. It's just like not much to it, just lightweight. It's got the right power to weight ratio, and it just looked like so much fun.
Yeah, right? Dave enjoyed driving it. I got Dave to drive it the year after, so last year. Was it last year? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyways, Dave drove it after So when Dave drove the car for that video, I didn't have any aero on the car. I had like a 225 square tire setup. The springs were a little soft. The car was a little pushy through some corners, as you saw in the video. Then I did 245 fronts, stiffened up the front spring rate with some new shocks and springs. The car, and I put the wing and the splitter in the car. The car was like a totally different car, and he really enjoyed it. Man. So I was hoping we could have done a video this year, but with the pandemic and everything going on, that definitely wasn't a priority. So but the car development of the car has been going quite well. I try not to rush anything. Everything that I try and do on the car is very I just don't like throwing parts on the car, you know what I mean? Like when I went to Grid Life event 2 years ago, and Tom O'Gorman, I don't know if you follow him. No,
not too familiar.
He's a pro driver for Honda, and very, very well experienced guy. He drove the car 2018 and 2019, so he gave me a lot of really good advice on car setup and just driving in general. So I've been trying to slowly implement those things into the car, so that with each step I can understand what the impact of doing something to your car has on the driving experience and the performance of the car. And just try to appreciate every little thing, right? Because now I get people that send me messages that are building their car as well, and they're like, hey, what do you suggest for this, what do you suggest for that? So I like to understand what each thing does, so if anyone has any questions, I can truthfully give them my experience without making anything up. So that's one of the reasons that I do that. And then the other reason is like I just don't have the time. Like I don't have the time to constantly be wrenching.
Yeah.
And it's even going to the track sometimes is a exercise in guilt management.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, man, I could be working on my business right now, or I could be going and having some fun at the track.
Yeah.
COVID this year definitely, it was a little easier. I'm not sure why this year to just go and enjoy myself, but I felt like I maybe deserved it a bit just to go and be out at the track and have some fun and thrash on the car.
Yeah.
So yeah, we managed to get I think 2.5 seconds off our lap time. So
very nice.
Hopefully with some fresh tires we can get the car down to like a 119 around Toronto Motorsports Park.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I'm looking for a new engine. So
it was funny because when we went on that track day that you guys
Steve
invited,
Kennedy,
and I looked over to Nell, I'm like, bro, like, because I've always loved the EK hatch growing up, right? If there's one Honda, that would be it. I'm like, yo, how much does it cost to make something like, or create something like that? It's like, too much, man. Too much. And your wife's going to kill you.
It wasn't that bad. I mean, yeah, I'm sure like spending all the money at once is a bit nuts.
Yeah.
But like I get asked that question a lot, and it's really not that bad. I think I could replicate that car. Maybe not as clean of a shell, but just a shell that's functional and looks okay.
Yeah.
Is structurally sound. I think I could replicate that car for somebody for between 10 and 12K.
Yeah.
Which is not bad for the fun factor that
it's not terrible. Yeah.
I think if you're running 12K, that might have like air conditioning. That's something that I really want to put back in the car.
Air conditioning.
It totally defeats the purpose of having a track car, but
yeah. I
still like my creature kind of comforts, and I think it's important because you got to ask yourself why you're doing it, right? Or like I'm doing it for the experience and the driving experience, and part of the driving experience comes from having some level of comfort, right? So, like, I was so resistant to putting a 3-inch exhaust on the car for so long, and then I finally found like a baffled 3-inch exhaust system from Greddy. So I put that on the car, and the car made more power, but now I'm like, I need to extract as much power as I can. So I'm probably going to change the axle back portion for something a little more free flowing, but it's not that bad to do, especially if you do it in stages. Yeah. And I really think that doing it in stages is the best way to go about it. Yeah. Because as you develop yourself as a driver, like what happened was for me was like in my early years of tuning that car, it was I need to get the car to do what I want it to do, and then somewhere along the lines in the last year, I was not capable enough for the car. And I mean, truly, I was not always capable, but I was still feeling like the car had more that needed to be done for me to feel comfortable to push the car. But this year especially, it was a lot of like getting comfortable at a high rate of speed and getting the car to do things that, you're sitting there and you're like, oh my God, I hope I don't spin, or I hope I don't hit that wall or something. Yeah. And just learning to trust yourself and really, really dialing in your consistency. Yeah. And it's cool too, because like when you're on the track, it's an exercise in concentration and focus, and you really, really, there's like this beautiful headspace that you're in where nothing else exists. And you get to a point where like even just the act of like braking and rev matching and turning, like it's almost second kind of nature, and like you're having this sort of like out of body experience is really, really cool. So I think I don't know where I was going with that, but it's so much fun being on track and having exercising that part of my automotive enthusiast.
No, it looks like a lot of fun, and I saw you thrashing that day, right?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
And on that note, how was that compared to driving his Type R?
The experiences are very different, of course. Driving the Type R rotates so well. It's like somebody just put a pole right through the roof where the antenna is, and the car just like dances around that.
Yeah.
So my car rotates in a different way than the Type R. I definitely like the power of the Type R is awesome. The suspension and everything. I think like when you go from like a car built in the like 90s, like the golden era of Hondas, to something that's so modernized, you really like it's so hard to draw similarities between them because it's such a different experience. But one of the things that I really love about the Type R is how easy it is to go fast. Where like that doesn't feel like it's work. Like I can hop into your car and maybe be like 1.5 to 2 seconds slower than like a really, really hot lap in my car. But I'll be like smiling and talking and like, hey, check that out, right? Like it doesn't feel as much work. And I think that's nice when you get older because you don't want to be tired. Like sometimes like you'd ask my wife, like when I get home from even just a lapping day, I am done.
Yeah.
Like the drive to the drive on track, which is obviously lots of fun, and then the drive home is just like it's like you're done, man.
Oh yeah.
I have no cruise control. I have no AC in that car. I have power steering, but you don't have any of that, right? So the overall experience of the day is very different. I love the power of the Type R. The brakes are insane. Like for a stock car out of the box, I think the value of that car is really, really good. The scalability is huge. Like to be able to add almost an extra 100 wheel safely with just bolt-ons and a tune.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome. The thing that I guess I don't like was maybe the power band. And I think that's just a turbo car thing in general, especially with a small like kind of turbo like that. Is like waiting for the power to come on. And I think when the power comes on so aggressively, learning how to keep the balance of the car going through a corner can be tough. It's just you just have to learn to adapt to it, right?
Yeah.
But I would love a Type R. It's like my dad has one and he's talked about selling it so many times, and I'm always like, I would love to buy that, but like, and I'm like, I could put the money into something else, and just
no, that having your EK is naturally aspirated, that responsiveness is you can't, it's hard to, you just have to adapt, right?
Yeah, for sure.
To like a force induced motor, right?
Yeah.
But that track day was a lot of fun. Yeah. I think
I really enjoyed having you guys out in the car.
You did an exceptional job at kind of explaining and teaching, and it comes back down to like, hey man, like you're a great teacher. You're good. This is something that I really want to encourage you to keep going at it. And you talk about feeling guilty going out to these track events, right? And it's kind of like, it is a super time-consuming, super luxury, fun hobby. Very expensive, right?
It can be.
Yeah.
It can be,
I think if you start creating some content around teaching people, like how to build their cars, how to drive, and incorporating that side of marketing your business, that's the beauty of kind of building a business around your passion.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So now that even if it is a track day, you can vlog about it. You can put together some content where you teach people, and that could be a way to get people in the door and to kind of see your business and the detailing side as well. Yeah.
Actually, something I thought about was having a track day for my clients. I think that might be something I explore next year, the year after, depending on how the situation goes. But renting out the track and having some clients come out to experience, because I get some nice cars that come in, and I'm like I just did a GT4, like a white one for my client, and nice. I'm like the car the car was tracked by the previous owner. So I said, so are you going to track this? He's like, I don't know, I'm not sure. And I'm like, those are the kind of people that I want to get out to the track so they can experience and appreciate what they have for a different way. Mm-hmm. I think just being on the track has taught me to be a better driver overall. Even when you're on the street, you become more defensive, and it's unnerving sometimes too, because you see like people aren't sitting properly, or people, their eyes are not, like, their seating position's all weird, and you're like, man, like how are you going to react quickly in the event of an emergency when you're parked like this, or you're sitting like this in your car. We got a train.
We might have to take a commercial break. Give us 1 second, guys.
Can we talk about our sponsors?
Wash and break.
Wash and break. Oh, it's done.
Oh man, I've been waiting. Right, we're back from our commercial break.
Thanks to the train that rolled by.
That's right, and everyone is taking their washing break. So we're back at it again, and I'm just gonna pass it over to Nell to kind of lead off from where we last talked about.
Yeah, we were talking about all that track fun, right? And then I think we're gonna circle back towards the detailing, right? Because over the past week, we had our buddy Colin come in to kind of do some PPF training. We are working towards kind of specializing in paint correction and ceramic coating at our shop, right? But we also want to get into providing a PPF service as well. Yeah. Right. So
it's definitely a wise move.
Yeah, we're hopefully going to be able to kind of service, PPF, paint correction, ceramic coating. Right. And kind of sharing our journey of how we get there. Right. And obviously you've been doing PPF for a long time. So, do you want to just share what kind of mistakes you've made over the years of doing PPF, and what
mistakes.
What are the most common, or in your opinion, the biggest mistakes that most installers will make?
I would say that I haven't been installing for that long. I mean, compared to the people that I know, I've been installing for just over 4 years now. I have been around PPF for a long time, just because, like, when we were, when you're ceramic coating cars, and most of them are new, and the two go hand in hand, right? So, but actually, like, physically installing film has been just around the 5 year mark. I can definitely speak to my own experience starting out, because I'm sure every PPF installer always has the best intentions to make things look as perfect as they can and wrap every single edge and corner and that kind of thing. The reality is that, things are going to go wrong, things are going to lift, you might have to replace some pieces. So one of the biggest things that really I think gets overlooked is how important it is to prep the surface and make sure that paint is, like, squeaky clean. So, a lot of people talk down on using things like Dawn soap to wash a car, but I definitely recommend using something like that to at least clean the edges of the panels, because most of your problems with film, from a longevity point of view, assuming you're using a good quality film that is not going to yellow and crack, most of the problems are that I find are, like, edges peeling and lifting, and mirrors, their fingers are popping back up and stuff like that. So I would say that, like, surface prep is huge. So, like, making sure that surface is clean. Typically what we do is, like, we'll wash the car, we'll go over the panels with, like, a tar remover and then an iron remover. We'll clay it, polish if necessary, and then we'll wipe everything down with, like, straight 99% rubbing alcohol, especially around all the edges and the areas that might have some tension where the film needs to hold. And then the other areas that we find are, like, outside of that, like, dust is a problem for PPF installs. I mean, I've seen installs come out of a paint booth where they're assumed to be like super clean, and they look absolutely awful.
Right.
And so that therefore means that, you know, the environment, yes, is important, but so is the prep of your panel, right? So one of the things is like 2 days ago I did an install on an RDX, and you know, there's a lot of like plastic around the sides where the fog light are, and the ducts that lead to the front tires.
Right.
So I spent a ton of time rinsing that out to make sure I could flush out as much debris as possible. Right. I did a Subaru, that one that we were talking about earlier,
Forester.
The Forester.
Yep.
So I had to do a bulk install on that, and they had just finished repainting the bumper, so I knew that there was going to be dust, right? So spend some time to really like flush out everything that you possibly can, where you think dust and dirt and debris might be hiding.
Yep.
So like dirt management, dust management. The other thing is lint. Like, you know, now I'm starting to get more into like the finer things, right? So the biggest thing really is just prepping the surface very, very well. But another thing is lint. So when I started installing, I got this little like waste pack thing, and I was working on a white Civic Type R, the first one actually that we've done a bunch. And I kept getting black, like little lint fibers. And I was like, where the heck is this coming from? Like everything's clean.
Yeah.
And then I looked down and I started rinsing everything off, and I found that there was lint coming off, and I realized it was that pouch.
Yeah.
Right? So, you know, a lot of it is just making the mistakes and being critical enough to want to figure out where your problem is, right? And just prepping the panel is important too. So if you're doing a large panel, like, you know, I think we're gonna go back and do some stuff on the S2000. So panel prep is important. So, you know, if you're doing a large panel and it's going to take a little bit of time to move the film around, sometimes it helps to put a little bit of like a wax or a sealant on the panel to help the slip move. So those are all really important things to consider. Another big thing that I forgot to mention was post heat. So if you're doing, like, I remember doing a car, you know, when I first started, we did rocker panels, and a few months later, the film started to peel on the edges, and I couldn't figure out why, because, like, you know, I had flushed out the edges with alcohol, got everything down, and made sure that it was good, and it left my shot perfect. What I learned was, like, if you don't post heat enough, the film is not actually going to kind of like lock onto the panel. So post heat is super important. So if you're doing like a bumper and you're done, go over all the edges with a heat gun and just make sure that everything is sealed down. That's basically it, man. I mean, like, most clients, they really want to, most clients don't like lifting film around like edges and stuff like that. So I always tell my clients, I'm like, I try to wrap everything. If you see something that might pop up a little bit, it's not a problem at all. We'll just trim it, right? I always try and see like the limits of the film, and my clients are willing to work with me on that, and I find that that's really important. And, you know, that kind of ties in with like setting expectations, right? So, you know, Instagram and photography go hand in hand, and I feel like it's glamorized a lot of our work for better. But there's also a downside to that, and that's the fact that, like, sometimes when you see nice shots that look like everything's wrapped, when in reality something can't be wrapped. So setting the expectations for your customers is super important, because the worst thing is you do a job and you think the job is done well and you're really proud of it, and the customer is not happy. So you got to figure out why, right? So I always talk to my customers and I explain to them, I'm like, we'll try to wrap everything that we can. And if for whatever reason you see, you know, even the tiniest bit that's just like got some dirt catching the edge, not a problem at all. I always have my clients come back for a follow-up every 2 to 3 weeks, because I recognize that, like, you know, we're all human. We all make mistakes, but more importantly, despite our best intentions, sometimes things can happen outside of our control when it comes to film. And you just have to roll. You just have to roll with it. You know what I mean? You just have to make sure that your customer knows that you have their back, right? And that then they'll keep sending more people. They'll buy new cars, and, you know. I think that's super important, right? Setting the expectations.
Yeah.
So
I think somewhere on your website you mentioned that 90% of your client base is referrals,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is that something that's generally something that's normal in the car industry? Because I feel like as we kind of move towards like media and digital and all that stuff, and that's what we're trying to do here, right? We're trying to show ourselves through Instagram, Facebook. Talk to us more about the referral business. Like, how do you kind of build that client base?
It wasn't on purpose. I always try to like, I believe in what I'm doing, right? And when you believe in what you're doing, you want people to experience that, and you want as many people to experience that. The other side of that is that there's a business for every customer, and vice versa. So it's about reaching the people who value what you're doing and value your work and your content and the way in which you work. And then the other part of that is actually obviously getting them here, right? So I don't know, I don't try and like really put myself out there to be like, I want everybody, right? I try and put out content that resonates with people who value what I value.
Yeah.
And what I value is like good quality workmanship paired with like good material and great support, right? Because you can go buy a Porsche and get the worst service ever. You probably won't buy it again despite how great you love the car, because at the end of the day it's about a package, right? So you really want your customers to feel that you offer the whole package of everything. And I think that's how the referral kind of thing has grown for me. I truly didn't do it to like, it just kind of happened by itself.
Yeah.
Because the other thing that I really try my best to do is have transparency in the process, so that customers don't feel like you're hiding something from them. Yeah. So if there's something that you can't do, but you're worried that the customer might think that you can't do it because you suck or you just don't know what you're doing, you have to step out of that comfort zone, right? And you have to be transparent with your client, and hopefully your client is understanding enough and respects the fact that you're willing to say I can and I cannot do something. Because when you recognize that, then your customer's on the same page, and then there's nothing, there's no like gray area where your customer doesn't know if he or she can trust you, right? So people like transparency.
Oh yeah.
And what I did was like I honestly just said, I was like, what are the things missing in our industry, and try to cultivate those values in my own operation. So transparency, honesty. You know, I have clients come by that are interested in a service. What I do is I try and get them to come by and see a job that's being done, because it's much easier to explain and show the tangible product of paint protection film when it's actually on a car. Yeah. Right. So that's kind of the general way in which I approach the film and the sales part of it and the support part of it.
I do enjoy, because when I was going through your website, I loved that you were so honest on it. Like you were really transparent. Like you even have like FAQ sections, and like most like automotive companies wouldn't even have that part, right? And to go along with that, you also have testimony. So I mean, everything that I've read has nothing but good feedback. So,
yeah, you'll find the common trend in the reviews is like the transparency part of it, and just I mean, when you're passionate about it, you know, we were talking about that earlier with like the videos and stuff, and like how I generally am I have an aversion to kind of putting myself out there. But one thing I do really try and push is I tell people, I'm like, look, like, read my reviews. I'm not trying to sound cocky or whatever, but I feel like, you know, you do have to have a sense of pride, because you've put in the work, right? Yeah. And I have got tons of clients just simply based on the reviews, because they all have this common trend of transparency and honesty and good work. And just the client has to know that you did your best. Yeah. Right. And if your client has any doubt in their mind that you didn't do your best, that novelty effect of getting the car protected and having it look great is just, it's not going to last that long.
Yeah. I liked how you were able to offer, your business and your services without feeling the pressure of being sold something. I think that's kind of like super rare in the industry.
I don't like that myself, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think none of us like that. Like you walk into a showroom sometimes and like
just hounding you.
It's just hounding you, and half the salespeople don't even know anything about the products that they're selling, and so it doesn't leave you feeling very confident and comfortable, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just try and put as much information out there. I have lots of cases where I educate a client and then they take all that education and they go somewhere else that's doing it for cheaper. Yeah. It's upsetting, but for sure. But I mean, like at the end of the day, I always tell myself, I'm like, there's a business for every customer for every business. However it works out. And sometimes those people, they get the job done and they're not happy, and then they come and we try and figure out a way to make them happy, right? Mm-hmm. So, things aren't always going to go in your favor, but that's part of the learning process, is learning how to adapt and just make the best out of sometimes a really crappy situation. Mm-hmm. Right? So.
Yeah, I really agree with what you mean about like there's a client base for the type of business that you want to run.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And just finding them and connecting with them is what you're striving for.
Yeah, exactly. And like doing things like this and connecting with people like you guys is really what helps to make you feel like you're on the right track and you're doing the right thing, because other people are seeing that this is what you're trying to do. Yeah. Right. And so, it definitely is a long game you have to play, because there's many ways of kind of like building your business and making as much money as you can and being as profitable as you can. I've just chosen to do it my way because I consider myself to be blessed and fortunate enough to be able to have something that I'm passionate about. So, do it the way that you think is best. And if it's not working, you'll see that it's not working. But you also have to be honest with yourself too, right? So
your branding is everything. Right?
I think so. Yeah. And it can't be fake.
Yeah.
Right. Like it really truly has to be you guys. Like, with all the conversations that you and I have had, there's an energy that I get from you. And when I walked in here this morning, it's still there. So, you definitely have to be the real deal. You just have to be honest and comfortable with yourself. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. Because, your clients can see. People can see, they feel it out.
People have a good bullshit radar.
Yeah,
man. Like
that's right. And the people you work with, other business owners and stuff like that, right? Like if you guys are you guys care about the right things, you guys believe in what you're trying to do, then it's infectious, right? And it goes a long way.
It's a really good way to put it. Really good way to put it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What we try to kind of cultivate around here is just to have like that long game mindset.
Yeah.
Right. It's not about winning any trophies. It's not about getting us to a certain amount of followers or, having like a certain amount of income coming each year. I think it's just about, staying in the game.
Yep. Staying in the game. Right. So key, man.
Just continuing to learn and better ourselves, and hopefully have a positive impact on our community, right? There's so much negativity around like what's going on this year and just in the car industry in general, right? If we can kind of just help
bring a little bit of light, a little bit of like just even sometimes a distraction from what's going on, right? Like, I mean, look at how many businesses have closed down this year, even in our industry alone.
Yeah.
Like when COVID hit, I was definitely a little worried because like you didn't know what to expect, right? But you'll first thing you do is you look at your bills, you look at your bank account, and you're like, all right, I'm good for X amount of time. After that, I got to start worrying, right? But I mean, it was okay for me. I think COVID really, what's the best way to describe this? It really solidified to me that playing the long game worked well for me, at least. Because like not selling yourself short, building like good strong relationships and good value with your clients, and man, just focusing on the work. Like ultimately, even if you're like a giant asshole to your customers, and you don't get along well with people, but your work is amazing, at least you have your work, right? And it's not to say that treat people badly, but like ultimately, aside from the way you treat people, if you're rendering a service with a tangible product at the end to them, that is what's going to be staring them in the face every single day. So make sure you do that good at least, right? Like knock that crap out of the park every single time. And I think for me, when I was all those years of like grinding and staying till like 1-2 o'clock in the morning, and I know I spent too much time on a car, but I got to get it done the way I feel comfortable giving it back to a client. COVID really told me that work paid off, because I had a ton of old clients come back and say, hey Kaval, I got my car, I'd like to have it done. In June, my whole June was booked up with just 2 clients. Yeah. That brought me 5 cars, and it was a great month. And I was so grateful. I just like nothing but gratitude in my heart that like I had all those opportunities in the past to like showcase my work and just do the best that I can, because it really paid off, right? So like, if there's anybody listening that's starting a business or whatever, like don't skimp out on the work by any means. Like even if you gotta stay all night to get that thing done the way you promised, like it, all you gotta do is just do exactly what you told your client you're gonna do, right? And do it the best way that you possibly can. That would be like, if we were to like end this podcast right now and I just like leave, that would be the thing, is like focus on the work, make sure the work is done as well as you possibly can. Yeah. Right. It's kind of like in life, like, people say you're only good as your word. Just replace the D with a K when you're doing this kind of work. Yeah. Right. So
that's something that we've been kind of struggling with. Yeah. Over this past year, right? It's just we're still learning so much. We're the detailing side. It's still very new to everyone on the team, right? But we have the right mindset.
You definitely do, and one of the challenges I think you'll face is that, because it's not like, for me it was just me, right? And what ended up happening, like for you've got multiple people that are taking instruction, and so you got instruction at the top and it's like trickling down, right? So you have to ensure that the message and the intent is the same by the time it reaches the person that's actually doing the work. Yeah. And that is a skill in itself, because you have to talk their language now too, right? So there's definitely different challenges that somebody like myself would face versus somebody like your team, because you are a team, right? And as a leader, you have to kind of like, you have to cultivate that sense of accountability and ownership, even though they may not necessarily be an owner of the company, right? They have to feel a sense of pride in their work, and you have to find a way to cultivate that. So it's just like that's another reason why I like the Honda racing side of things, is the history. Is that like when you read the history of some of the like things that have been done, or the way cars have been built, and you see how, like, I was watching like I think it was Savage Geese just recently did that video, the final goodbye, or proper goodbye, on the Lexus LFA. Yeah, and like it was the thing I loved the most about it was like the autonomy that the engineers had to just focus on just doing the work and doing it right, and doing it well, right? And so like one of the things I like about like the Honda racing side of things and is there's that mindset, right? And so like even like with your S2000, when I look at that car, I'm not just thinking, oh, it's an S2000. I'm thinking like there was like an intention that was behind that car. And when I see that car, I don't think, oh, that's just an AP1 or an AP2. I'm thinking like that's a vehicle that was developed with a purpose, with an intent, and that like the way that looks is it's a total like embodiment of that, right? So I think having like for you owning a car like that, it must be really cool because like you've got the Type R, like you've got like some of the best cars that Honda has made, right? Like you've got the S2000, the FK8, is a NA2 or
NA1.
Yeah,
NA1.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm actually looking forward to going back there and we'll do some film on that, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll do a full body wrap on that too, right?
Yeah. No, I was
sure.
That S2000 has a little bit of story to it.
Yeah, that used to be Shazzy's S2000.
Yeah,
I think he had that. He brought that car to me when he had it to my shop once for like a wash or something like that, or like an inspection.
Yeah. So
what's the story with that?
He's had that for me and Shaz. We both kind of started off with Hondas, right? And as a Honda enthusiast, the S2000 is like one of the top three
for sure, man.
Like iconic Hondas.
Yeah,
right?
totally agree.
So, he had one a while back, and that was the one. And I always told him, I'm like, Shaz, if you ever sell that car,
you gotta
please
call me. Yeah.
Let me know.
Yeah.
Let me know, right?
Yeah.
And he eventually ended up selling it to our other friend, right? Billy, who owns Tires 23.
Yeah.
And things have a funny way of working it out, and now I had an opportunity to purchase it, and now it's it's kind of stayed in our group of friends, which is cool. It's got a fresh paint job.
Yeah.
Right. I think European Auto Body did a complete paint job on it. It looks amazing.
Yep.
Right. So I'm super, super excited to kind of preserve that paint.
Yeah. Let's keep it from needing another paint job in the future.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Yeah. This car is going to be in the family for a long time.
Yeah.
I hope to be able to kind of pass it down to Anderson. Even though it's probably going to be extremely slow by the time he gets old enough to drive.
Well, if you ever do want to sell it before it's his time to drive, you can give me a call. I would love an S2000, like not even as a track car, because man, building that EK was a slippery slope. I don't know where I fell off and just like went like full track spec, but I would love to have another car like an S2000 just to just drive every day in the summer.
Yeah.
Just like a nice daily, man. Like I would love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you ever want to sell that, you know my number.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited for us to kind of, film some content around wrapping that car.
Yeah.
Continuing to always share and give back to our viewers and help teach them as to what it takes to kind of apply PPF on the car,
and things like that.
And hopefully shed some light so that they can at least know what to look for if they're going to do it on their own car.
Yeah, for sure.
And all
or
that
you
stuff.
even like acquire it. Like I did a video recently on my YouTube channel where I went over some things to look out for when you're getting a PPF install, because we had a red Supra that one of my friends has, and it had PPF done somewhere else, and like it was just not done very well. Like it was one of those things where it's just kind of like get the film on the car and go, right? Like I understand, I talk to my clients a lot about like the distinction between paint perfection film and paint protection film, because they are not the same thing. But that was definitely something that I would have pulled off and redone. But I think it's good. I think it's good to do things like that, because sometimes like, you know, you get people inquire about PPF's like services and they're shocked at the price. But there's a lot of work that goes into it, and that really, I don't think people understand and see. And if they would see it, or at least get a glimpse of it, they would understand why it costs the way it costs.
Yep.
Because it's not just like product and labor and things like that, right? There's also value that's had. There's also like, you know, being there if anything ever has to be replaced. And there's a lot of costs that go into just running a business, right? So I think doing that is definitely a great idea. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. So I'm really very grateful that like we can do that together, because you guys have a great team, and I'm sure we can make some nice content.
Yeah, we plan on hoping to be very transparent with our clients and our viewers, and creating content around this kind of stuff and showing them is going to be a big, an effective way of doing that.
Yep.
Right. So
we can show what it looks like when you screw up, or what not to do, and share that journey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess that kind of segues into the Honda S2000, and this afternoon you guys want to talk about the work that we'll be performing.
Yeah. I think the plan is to do a full hood install on the S2000 and kind of walk you guys through what I would do, or the things that go on in my crazy head as I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much the plan, right? I think that hood's got a bit of a taper to it, so we might have some scraps that we can save and maybe do some headlights or something.
Cool.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Would you be able to share any like best practices around doing a hood like that?
Install?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some of everybody does film in their own way, but at least for me, what I like to do is like, I think I said earlier, I'll apply a little bit of like a quick detailer or something to the hood, assuming all the prep steps have been done. The ones that we talked about earlier, like stripping all the gunk that's off there, basically anything that would hinder the adhesion of the glue.
Yeah.
Adding a little bit of like maybe edge promoter, just to kind of make sure that things stay locked down. I always do that on hoods, especially because you get the radiant heat that comes off the engine. It can weaken the adhesive over time through all the cycles of hot and cold.
Yeah.
And it's just good. Like it's nice to know that you don't have to worry about something popping up on underneath. And it sucked. Like it would suck to have to replace an entire hood.
Yeah.
Just because you have like one little piece left, right? So being proactive is a really important thing to think about when you're doing film, and remembering that like, you have to look at it from the customer's point of view, right? Sometimes, we want to wrap every single edge possible, but sometimes it's about making things look clean as opposed to like forcing some film down there just so it's wrapped, right? And that's something that's really hard to explain without actually showing, but I think we'll get to a point in the future where we can show something like that.
Yeah.
Another thing is, making sure the film is floating on the panel with enough slip. And just sometimes, depending on the shape of the hood, you have to tack it a certain way, stretch it a certain way, make sure there's no fingers. Like the goal is, before you start squeegeeing, like removing the slip, is to try and make sure that there's no fingers on the like showing up on the hood. I think you guys had a bunch, like when Colin came by to do the hood on the RDX. Those fingers, when you force them down, which is something that you shouldn't do, will like it'll look like crap.
Yeah.
On a white car you might not see it as much, but on a dark kind of colored car, or even on your S2000, it is more on the lighter shade. You'll still see it in certain light, right? So getting those best practices down is important, so that any color car you work on, you've got the same results every single time.
Yeah.
So, and then that's pretty much it. I mean, just off the top of my head, I think those are the most important things. Keeping the film kind of floating, and don't be too aggressive when you're squeegeeing. That's about it, man.
Yeah, I think we'll be able to kind of explain and touch on this kind of terminology you're using when we're back in the shop. Actually doing it, with the cameras on the cars. So that's gonna be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I
Kaval,
think
this
it'll be fun.
was so much fun. You know,
I agree. I had a lot of fun with you
pleasure.
guys, man.
I learned so much just from listening to you talk, and you know, we're gonna be doing a lot of collaborations together.
I think so.
For sure.
I feel like this is the beginning of something pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's funny that, you know, your high school friend Andrew Wadawani,
And
he's
Andrew,
also part
Nate.
of our collective,
Man,
right? He's
crazy.
our,
Small world.
you know, he's our super tech.
Yeah,
You know, just
yeah.
coming in and just so
I freaking
so
love that guy.
open,
I
just
freaking
just
love
the
that
right
guy.
energy, man.
an awesome dude.
It's so much fun to kind of connect with, you know, like-minded individuals,
Yeah.
right? So you know, it's you know, it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
For sure.
I have a
For
lot
sure.
of excitement for a lot of the kind of projects we'll be working on together.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah.
nice to know that like we're like-minded in the sense where, you know, we like to get things done a certain way, and we want to make sure that you know, we're helping, and the intent behind what we're doing is to kind of like spread the love and
Yeah.
spread the goodness, and
Mm-hmm.
nothing but good things can come from something like this. So I'm pretty excited.
Hopefully, we can get you to step out of your comfort zone and join us in on a TikTok today. I think we have some planned.
What's
Still got some
TikTok?
time.
I've seen a lot of it, but I haven't signed up yet.
Yeah, no,
Man, it's like
we're-
another distraction.
We'll walk you through
we're,
it.
We're kind of exploring that whole new world as well,
Yeah,
but it's definitely a great platform to kind of engage with car culture.
So what is it? Is it like a like, how is it different from like Instagram stories?
It's essentially the same thing,
Okay.
Yeah.
right? It's just a different platform, which is not
Mhm.
as mature,
Okay.
right? So
Right.
there's
So you can act a fool on TikTok a bit, and then won't be
Pretty much.
kinda taken out of context.
Much
Yeah.
like our TikTok videos that you've seen.
I actually haven't seen the one that you guys were talking about earlier.
Oh, okay.
So maybe we should have put it on during this podcast. But maybe we can leave it for like a next one or something.
Yeah.
I think the platform's not as mature,
Uh-huh.
and there's definitely a lot of like the younger generation on
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? So you're definitely tapping into a different demographic.
Segment. Yeah. I mean, it's good
Right.
to engage that like segment as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because man, like the passion starts at that age,
Yep.
Mhm.
right? And if you're not present in their minds, they're just gonna go somewhere else.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
And you know, having the cars that you guys have here, it's really cool because like people stare at those things. They're like, yo, like, then they want to talk to you, they want to engage with you, they find some inspiration. Like, people get inspired in very different ways.
Yeah.
And you know, as I was telling you earlier, like how I got inspired to like cars, it's not, I mean, it's not necessarily unconventional, but it happens in different ways, man.
Yeah. No, that's for sure. But you know, this was
This was
awesome.
great. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you guys.
coming today and
Thank you guys.
talking with us on the podcast. Before we end this episode, what's one thing that we don't know about you?
that most people
know,
wouldn't
man.
know.
Yeah.
Maybe that your wife of
My wife and I have been together for
a long
almost
time.
20
Maybe
years.
she knows that. that
I mean, up until today, I don't think you guys knew that about me.
yeah, that's definitely one.
Yeah. I think that's yeah.
What's your dream car?
Yeah.
You want to share that?
You know what? I get asked this a lot, and I mean, without a doubt, I think like a McLaren F1 would be pretty sick.
Oh,
But
yeah.
here's the thing, though, right? It's like why I enjoy my EK so much is that I'm not afraid to put it into a wall while enjoying it.
Yeah.
I couldn't have that level of. I don't think I could have that level of enjoyment with like a McLaren
Right.
F1 because man, can you imagine writing off that car?
Oh my God.
That
no.
would be like
Tragic.
would be terrible. Like, you know, you're insured and whatever, but insurance is a different thing, right?
Mhm.
You don't buy an McLaren F1 and think, oh, I'm good, I got insurance. You buy a McLaren F1 because you want to experience that.
Mhm.
So I think that like I love the motorsport side of this car thing so much, and I've slowly been dipping my feet more and more into it. I did some events this year. I did one. Unfortunately, I couldn't do more, but I did one event with Ontario Time Attack. That was a ton of fun. We couldn't cross the border for Grid Life this year, but I would love to have a nice trailer, a nice truck, and a space where I can just work on my Civic and just have that experience. You know what I mean? Like I'll do it with any car. And it's weird. Like I would love an Integra Type R.
Yep.
I'd love an NA2 or an NA1 and NSX. I mean, my dad's got a Type R, so I could drive that whenever. I would love an E46 M3.
Yes.
I would love like a 911, like a turbo. All the like drivers cars, you know what I mean? Like S2K. I wouldn't even mind like a Miata with a K swap. Like I don't have this like innate want for like some like car. It's just I just want cars that are fun to drive that you can access.
Yeah.
Right. So.
Yeah, the list just keeps piling and piling, and
I mean, anything with a K swap, like you guys know, I love my K swap. I'm constantly like trolling people, like put a K swap in this, put a K swap in that. But like, I'd be happy driving anything with a K swap.
There's a reason why I have so many diecast car models. It's because I have so much love for all these cars, and you can't buy them all. Yeah. So collecting them at a little miniature level is kind of a way to enjoy and appreciate it.
For sure. Right? I think to add another car to that list, GT4 would be a nice car to have. I think that's a realistic car.
Yeah.
That is within the scope of having something where you can take care of your stuff and you still got some coin for a car like that. So hopefully in a few years I'll be able to be in a position to have a car like that. But again, it would just be out at the track, man. Out at the track, like just enjoying it, appreciating the car for what it was made.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Dope.
Yeah.
Dope.
How about you guys? I know the podcast is gonna run a little long, but what kind of dream cars are you guys on?
Go ahead, Chris. You first.
Now it's like I already got my dream car.
He has it down on a list, but I don't know. My dream car has always. I'm such a Euro guy.
Yeah.
Right. As much as I love Hondas and I grew up like in Hondas, I've always had a passion for Euros just because of my dad too, and it always relates to your upbringing, right, with your parents and whatnot. So my dream car would probably be a Porsche.
Yeah.
911. That's like. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. That will just make my life. But how am I gonna get there? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But that's something that I want one day.
P cars, man. Like every time I get a Porsche in my shop, I'm just like,
freaking love
something
it.
like a Macan. Like those things are gorgeous.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
How about you?
Definitely like a
P car.
A 991.2 manual.
Yeah.
Right. That's the dream.
Spec'd out already.
Right. I kind of always lean towards kind of driver's cars.
Yep.
That's why I love the NSX so much. It's not particularly fast, but the way it makes you feel is just unreal.
It's the experience, right?
Just miles per mile is off the chart.
Yeah.
Even something like the LFA, that's a V10 naturally aspirated, just screaming like that. You can't just put a price on that. It's not the fastest car, but it's the way it makes you feel. Like at the Speed Academy day, I drove my friend's yellow ITR, and it's like it's got a built motor. It's like still proper B18 1.8 liter, nice. But like. You feel the chassis. You understand why people still like that car, still consider it to be like one of the best front wheel drive cars that's ever been made.
Yeah.
So, to be able to experience that 15, 20 years after it's been made, it's a pretty special car. So, it goes back to that experience and the way it makes you feel. So,
yeah. Before we finish this off, Kaval, do you want to share your handle on IG?
Sure.
Where people can find
find me.
more information about your business and,
Yeah.
and your race cars and all that good stuff?
Sure, yeah. So on Instagram, we are Make It Shine Detailing. If you want to follow my track car account, that's Make It Shine _EK. Facebook, we're Make It Shine Detailing. Google, the same thing. Our website is makeitshine.ca. Yeah, you can, if you have any questions, you want to email me, you can hit me up, contact@makeitshine.ca as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kaval.
You guys, it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure.
Let's go lay down some film.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that wraps it up for the Kodawari podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we did, and we hope to see Kaval again. Stay tuned for the next episode.
Take care, guys.
Thanks, man.
Peace.